Should you use a notebook in your creative writing endeavors? Yes, most definitely you should. That was easy. We can end the video here. Let's go home. No, but seriously, using a notebook is a very good way to help you clarify your thoughts. So maybe you have a fuzzy concept or a notion that would make a good short story or a novel, but actually putting pen to paper will help you clarify those thoughts and generate new ones. It'll help you figure out whether that was a good idea or a bad idea. Can you keep going with it? Can you formalize it into words on the page? And if not, maybe it wasn't a good idea after all. But maybe it was, and maybe taking that mental effort to put all your ideas at the tip of your pen and write them down, maybe that will help you come up with even better ideas. That's been the case with me, and so in this video, I want to show you how I use notebooks to help with my own creative writing, specifically my speculative fiction, and even more specifically, I mean my science fiction short stories and my fantasy short stories. There are other types of speculative fiction, but I am primarily interested in SFF, science fiction and fantasy. Now, I'm not an amazing, accomplished author or anything like that, but I have a Substack subsection called Sages, Mages, and Wisdom Machines, and I write short stories there. And so far, I've been getting a lot of views, a lot of comments, and even a couple emails from bigger science fiction publishers. So I'm definitely not claiming to be an amazing author or anything like that, but I have had some success with my speculative fiction short stories, and I am currently working on a science fantasy novel. Now, of course, none of this really matters all that much, but some of you will hear that and it'll bolster my credibility, and you'll want to listen because of that. For everyone else, all that really matters is whether or not this is good advice or whether or not it's good advice for you. So I'm going to show you how I use notebooks to help me with my speculative fiction. I'm also going to share a little bit from Ursula K. Le Guin on how she did and didn't use notebooks for her own creative writing. This video is sponsored by Plaude Note. It's a super cool AI-powered device that is credit card thin. Super cool. I think it's a way to use AI to actually help yourself think better instead of offloading your cognitive capacities to a dumb machine. This is not that. And so what I want to do with this, since they sponsored the video, is I'm going to put this right here on my desk. I'm going to have it listen to this video. And then at the end, I'll show you how it can make a mind map of this episode to help me think more clearly about my own thoughts. But for now, let's jump in on how I use notebooks for my creative writing. All right, so diving right in on how I use notebooks for my creative writing. I should say again, I don't think I am an amazing author or anything like that. I'd like to be one someday, but for now, I'm just honing my craft. And so many of you have reached out in the comments asking how I personally use notebooks for my creative writing. So that's the impetus behind this. That's why I'm doing this. It's for you guys. I hope you like it. Actually, before we jump in, I want to thank you guys a little bit. I've recently signed a book deal with Baker Books for a book titled Journal Like a Philosopher. It's basically ParkNotes, the book. I'm super stoked for it. It's going to be a practical philosophy book on how to do philosophical spiritual habits by using a notebook, just like we do here on ParkNotes in all of my different videos. And I've been able to outline it through outlining all the videos for you guys this whole time. So that's been super cool. So big thanks to you guys for that. I'm also working on my first science fiction novel called Block World. Probably will have to change that name because everyone thinks that it has to do with Minecraft or something when it does not have to do with Minecraft or anything like that. But what I'm talking about most in this video is my Sages, Mages, and Wisdom Machines. Like I said, it is a subsection of my Substack, and it's where I write my short stories at. So let's start at the ground level with an idea. You have an idea for a short story. What do you do with that? Well, I like to put it in my Catchall pocket notebooks. Everything is going in here. Ideas for ParkNotes, ideas for my other YouTube channels, ideas for my Parker's Ponderings Substack, and yes, ideas for my speculative fiction. I just saw one in here. Can't find it now. Okay, so here it is. This is just a little sneak peek. I'm not going to even tell you really anything about it, but all this to say, yes, I do put my ideas in my pocket Catchall first, and then from there, I put them into my other notebooks. This is a Murdy Creative Special Edition ParkNotes edition, Leuchtturm 1917, in this leather cover. Study and think deeply. And when you buy it, the first insert has a ParkNotes logo. So you can find that in the description if you're a fan of the channel. That'd be cool. So all my good ideas, my first ideas, they go inside of a catch-all, and then later I will put them in a dedicated notebook that's dedicated to my speculative fiction. So this is my Block World notebook. It's filling up with ideas, with plot summaries, with characters and character development, with better detailed pictures and ideas about the laser sword and how I can not steal from Christopher Rocchio's Sun Eater or from Star Wars, who both use laser swords. How can I make mine unique? I think I have a pretty good way, but we'll see. I've also been working on a new project called the Space Sage Handbook. It's a compendium of the Imperium, and this is going to be a bunch of short stories from the broader universe of Blockworld, and it's going to be about the different hardware that's used. So this will be me trying to do what's called hard SF, hard science fiction, where I'm just going in on the hardware. I'm trying to give a detailed scientific account of the type of hardware that's used in my made-up universe, like the laser tube, which I'm stealing from Philip K. Dick, but that's fine. So my ideas will start out in my Catchall pocket notebook, then they will migrate into this if it is an idea for my Space Sage handbook, or into my Blockworld notebook if it's for Blockworld. Specifically on the plot for that one, here I have a maser cannon. It's a ball lightning gun that shoots ball lightning. This is going to be a short story that's going to go on Sages, Mages, and Wisdom Machines. And eventually, if Blockworld takes off, maybe I write the Space Sage handbook and turn it into a real book. So that is the process. I take my good ideas, I put them in a catch-all because I don't want to lose them. And I usually have my good ideas when I'm driving or when I'm out and about, when I'm actually moving. That is when they come to me. So they go in here, then I migrate them out. Now you might be saying, what do you do to generate your ideas besides going for a walk? Like, where do you get the ideas from? Well, sometimes when I can't think of a good idea, but I want to write something, I will go back to my philosophy notes from graduate school. I like writing philosophical science fiction because I'm into philosophy. I'm a big philosophy junkie and nerd. And so I will flip through my notes and I'll look for cool ideas, cool philosophical thought experiments. A lot of these philosophers are also science fiction nerds, and they will use all sorts of cool science fiction technology in their thought experiments. So I want to be reminded of those, and I want to make them up myself as well. So I'll look through my notes and I'll pick something that really sticks with me, something that I remember from class, something that gets my cogs spinning. And then I will think about how I can write that into a short story. So that's a super fun way to generate new ideas, is looking back on my old notes. This is why it's fun to use commonplace books. When you find something cool in a story or in a TV show or a movie, write it down, write down the quotes, or keep a compendium of ideas where you're just putting the information, and collect all that information into one spot that you can thumb through when you're looking to make a new short story. So this is my Sages, Mages, and Wisdom Machines proper notebook full of ideas. Now, I don't fully manuscript out my short stories in here. I put just enough information to remind myself when I'm sitting down to write. So the kernel, the seed of the idea goes in the catch-all. Then I will expand that out into my actual dedicated notebook, but I'm still not writing out the full thing. So here's a short story I wrote called Tiger, Tiger. It's on the philosophy of biology and kinds and the evolutionary branches of the tree. And can we consider a tiger that was generated on Mars an actual tiger if it doesn't have the same branching of the biological tree? So you don't have to like that or whatever, but I did write a short story on that, and I put a check mark here so I could tell myself, yes, that's already been done, and remind myself that is over. Sometimes I'll create a really cool character like Jackson Cladd, and I'll migrate him out of that story and put him somewhere else. I think he's probably going to end up making it into my novel Blockworld, but we'll see. So here's another one that I completed called Inscrutable Intelligence, and this has to do with those giant old school answering machines when computers first came out. In the 1950s, there were a bunch of short stories about a computer becoming God, and so I wanted to do my own take on that. So here I put some of the dialogue, and I just had it abbreviated to M and Q, and it's not the full dialogue, but it was enough where it came to me and I thought, those are good lines. I need to put those into my short story. So I'll put them in here. If I find a good line or a good phrase that I really want to incorporate, definitely that's going into the notebook. But you'll notice these are just really sloppy notes because I am frantically trying to get them out of my brain onto the page. And so, yeah, they're not very clear. That's totally fine with me. It's enough for me to be able to read them. When I'm taking notes in my philosophy lectures and stuff, like, it's going to be a lot more neat. This may still not look neat to you, but it is neat to me. because I need to be able to reference this forever and ever. This is different because when I'm feeling creative, it just all comes pouring out and I can't get it out fast enough. So it will be much, much worse. However, I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to do a better job of making legible notes. So this is a novella or novelette, I'm not sure which yet, depending on how long it goes, on my Mongolian character, who's like a Mongolian Conan the Barbarian. His name is Dorgo, and it's a science fantasy story called Dorgo Step Out of Time, because of the Mongolian steppe. It's really fun. I've been working on this one for a while, but you'll see there's Dorgo here, and then there's some more Dorgo later on. I come back to it and I just add different notes. And because this is a Leuchtturm 1917 B6, they have numbered pages at the bottom, and it comes with a blank table of contents where you can add your own stuff too. So if I want to go back and work on Dorgo some more, I know the pages where I've put my notes for the novella/novelette. So some of them are going to be smaller. Some of them are just still the kernel of the idea. I haven't worked it out fully, but it's in here for when I have the creative spark and I feel like writing something. I can thumb back through here if I don't have anything on my mind that I'm desperate to write about. These two are going to be especially fun. They're so sloppy that you can't read them, so I'm not too worried about it being spoiled for you guys, but these are going to be really fun philosophical short stories. But this is really it. It's a super simple method. I have a good idea. I put it in my catch-all, or I want to generate a good idea. I look over my notes in my compendium, whether it's from class or from listening to podcasts or just reading in general. And then I fill out the details a lot more in my notebook dedicated to my SFF short stories, or into one of my other science fiction projects, like the Space Sage Handbook or Block World. But now let me just briefly read you what Ursula K. Le Guin has to say about using notebooks. This is from a collection of her essays on writing science fiction and fantasy. It's called The Language of the Night, and I'll have that linked for you in the description. She's a beast. If you don't know her, she's awesome. She's a very good science fiction and fantasy author. And what I like even more about her is that she is like a philosopher of science fiction and fantasy. She's really helped me get clear on what I want to do, how those two are actually a little bit different. They're at least unique concepts under the umbrella of speculative fiction. But she had these negative things to say about keeping a notebook, and it freaked me out at first. And then I realized I think I totally agree with her. So let me just read her verbatim here. She says, "All my life I have written, and all my life I have, without conscious decision, avoided reading how to write things. The shorter Oxford Dictionary and Follett's and Fowler's manuals of usage are my entire arsenal of tools. However, in reading and teaching and talking with others, one does arrive at a certain consciousness of technique. The most different technique from my own, the one that starts from the point furthest removed, is just this one of preliminary plans and lists and descriptions. The technique of keeping a notebook and describing all the characters in it before the story is begun, how much William weighs and where he went to school and how much his hair is cut and what his dominant traits are." She goes on to say, "I do have notebooks in which I worry at plot ideas as if they were old bones, growling and snarling and frequently burying them and digging them back up again. Also, during the writing of a piece, I often make notes concerning a character, particularly if it's a novel. My memory is very poor, and if there's something I just noticed about the character, but this is not the right point to put it into the book, then I make a note for future reference." And she goes on to say, "But I don't write out descriptions beforehand and would indeed feel ridiculous, even ashamed to do so, if the character isn't so clear to me that I know all that about him. What am I doing writing about him? What right do I have to describe what William did when Helen bit his knee if I don't even know what he looks like, and his past and his psyche, inside and out, as well as I know myself? Because after all, he is myself, part of myself." So Le Guin is kind of a Jungian. She thinks that we need to look within in order to find really good stories, really good fantasy and fiction. Just look within and find those archetypes in the collective unconscious, so to speak. She says she's not like a real formal Jungian or anything like that, but she says that was her process. And that's pretty cool, actually. I think I agree with her on looking within to find really good stories, especially from your own intuitions and your own experiences. And I think I also agree with her on the way that she would keep her own notebook for notes on her characters. Now, like Le Guin, I am ruminating on my stories. Before bed, I put my mind into Block World and I look around. Where am I? What does it feel like? what kind of universe is this place? I know Frederick Block, the main character, pretty well because he is a part of me. I'm putting a lot of myself into him and my own experiences, as well as the experiences of my friends and family as they've told me. So I don't really need to write down a whole ton about what he looks like. She's right. I know this character because he's a part of me. But when there's really good lines that I need to write, those are going in my Block World notebook. When I have particular takes on things, when I have a good idea about his laser sword, and I finally come to a conclusion about what it's going to look like, I'm going to draw a picture of that. I'm going to write that up. That stuff is important to me. I've always had the broad scope of the narrative arc and stuff like that, but when it comes to making little changes, I want to write those down. I want to cross them out. I want to work them through in my notebook because thinking on paper is so much more helpful for me. And like Le Guin, I have a terrible memory. Did I choose this or that? I can't remember. Well, let me look at my most recent notes. Let me see what I crossed off, all of that stuff. So there you go. Again, I am not the master speculative fiction author. Someday it would be really nice to sell books. I'm working on that and we'll see. But Ursula K. Le Guin is actually a master. She's both a very good practitioner and she was also a good philosopher of science fiction and fantasy. And I found out that I end up doing the same kind of things with notebooks that she was doing with her notebooks. So that's pretty cool. If you guys like that, then you should start doing it as well. When you have a good idea, put it in your Catchall notebook, migrate it to a speculative fiction or creative writing notebook, and then continue to work on that. Make an outline for yourself. And then from there, go to your computer and write out the story. I don't manuscript the full thing in my notebooks. That would be really arduous, I think, but some of you may really enjoy that. Okay, so like I said, this video is sponsored by Plaude Note. Now, Plaude Note is a super duper cool device. It has been trained on ChatGPT. It is a way to use AI to empower your mental capacities instead of offloading them like so many other AI tools do. So I actually can recommend Plaude Note. It's super sleek and credit card thin. Look at that thing. Plaude Note can help you regularly capture your ideas and assist yourself in learning. So what I did for this video is I put it on my desk, I played the video back, and now I'm going to show you how to make a mind map using Plaude Note. So here is pull up my phone, I pull up the Plaude Note app, check out the recording, and there are lots of different cool features that you can do. Okay, so here I'm just going to generate an overview, and then from there we can get to our mind map. Okay, so just like that, it has generated a summary of my video for me, creative writing and philosophy in speculative fiction. So here's the theme. Here are the big takeaways. Gave me 10 of them. This is crazy, super cool. Highlights. So this is a way that I can use an AI-powered device, Plaude Note, to get clear on my own thoughts, to help me think about my own thoughts. I'm not using this to offload my thoughts. I'm not using this to think for me. Instead, I'm using it to help catalyze and think through my own thoughts. Now let's make a mind map of it and see where we're at. So here we go. We have different colors. We have the theme, we have the takeaways, we have the highlights, and we have the chapters and topics. So you just follow the thread and you'll see the 10 different takeaways right here. Each one has a different color to help you navigate it. You'll see the highlights, the chapters, and topics. So there's Plaude Note for you. I think it's a tool that you can use to help you think about your own thoughts and get clear on what you believe, why you believe it, or to take with you during a meeting that you want to take notes on, that you want to think about more clearly. It's a good tool to help you think. So if you guys want to find out more about Plaude Note, then check the link in my description. And big thanks to Plaude Note for sponsoring this video. All right, so if you guys made it this far into the video, then you are awesome. Make sure to leave me a thinking emoji in the comments. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Do you practice creative writing? And if so, do you use any notebooks to help yourself? If you use any different styles than I've used, please leave those in the comments. I always need help, and the rest of the audience needs help as well. All right, that's going to do it for now. I'll catch you guys next time.